Denver Broncos fans, we've got some exciting draft news. The Broncos are making a bold move in this year's draft, and it's all about offense. This pick could be a game changer for the future of the team, and it directly challenges the doubts some analysts still have about quarterback Bo Nix, especially from a recent piece written in collaboration between the New York Times and The Athletic. We'll break that down, plus take a look at what's going on with a few AFC West rivals. Let's start with the Raiders. Rumors suggest they might be on the verge of mishandling their number 6 overall pick. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are reportedly scrambling to trade up for an offensive tackle. Their situation up front is looking rough. Back to the Broncos. A new league-wide ranking measured average margins of victory and defeat across all teams. The turnaround for Denver from last season is huge. Remember that early prediction where the Broncos were expected to be underdogs in almost every game except one? That didn't age well. In reality, the Broncos led the league in wins by more than 9 points on average and only lost close games, most by one score. That's a major shift and a strong indicator of success heading into the new season. In fact, this new report ranks Denver 11th overall, just behind the Kansas City Chiefs. That kind of placement puts the Broncos squarely in the playoff picture. Even better, they're ranked ahead of the Chargers, which, let's be honest, feels just about right. But here's where things got frustrating. The same report claimed, "I still have reservations about quarterback Bo Nix." That's hard to believe for anyone who's actually watched him play. Many national analysts didn't catch his games until one was flexed into prime time against Cincinnati. After that, the reaction was immediate. Wow, Bo Nix can really play. And it's true, he improved every game after a tough start against strong defenses in Seattle and Pittsburgh. He's been rock solid ever since. There's also strong buzz around the Broncos' draft approach. George Payton has quietly built a strong record over the last few years, despite limited first-round picks. For example, with their first pick falling as late as 64th overall, the Broncos still managed to grab standout talent. Think about it. They landed elite cornerback Pat Surtain, picked up Nick Bonitto, who at one point was leading the league in sacks, and drafted Marvin Mims, who emerged as a key weapon. That's impressive value with later picks. Bottom line, the Broncos are in great shape heading into the draft, and if Bo Nix continues to progress the way he has, the future in Denver looks bright. In that Cincinnati game, Bo Nix threw 2 touchdowns and showed exactly why he's a spark for this offense. Whenever the ball's in his hands, good things happen. And keep in mind, Denver didn't pick him until number 65 overall. There was a lot of criticism when the Broncos selected Nix. Some called it the biggest reach of the first round, even labeling it one of the worst picks. But look at the narrative now. It's quickly flipping. General Manager George Payton recently said he feels more confident heading into this draft than he has in previous years. And that's saying something considering how successful some of his past drafts have been. If the Broncos can simply land a solid starter in this draft, they're going to be in great shape moving forward. Head coach Sean Payton also had a few things to say, and one comment stood out. He praised wide receiver Courtland Sutton, even though Sutton still doesn't have a finalized contract. Usually coaches stay quiet in situations like that, but not this time. Payton openly praised Sutton's leadership and impact. Sutton has been visible in the community, staying engaged with fans and showing what a role model looks like. But more importantly, let's talk about what he's done on the field. Last season, Sutton produced like a true wide receiver one, even outperforming names like Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase in explosive plays. That's impressive, especially when you consider the context. The Broncos didn't have a 100-yard rusher all year. The tight end position was practically a non-factor, and Sutton was catching passes from a rookie quarterback. Despite all that, he still delivered big-time plays. If the Broncos add a strong running game and get reliable tight end production next season, Sutton's ceiling might be even higher. Now let's revisit the doubts around Bo Nix. One of the main criticisms has been that he's a check-down merchant, but the numbers don't support that claim. In fact, toward the end of the season, Nix led the league in deep ball completions, defined as passes traveling 20 yards or more downfield. According to Pro Football Focus, he had the most completions of 20-plus yards in the league. There's even a passing chart comparison that shows Bo Nix's deep throws stack up well, even against someone like Patrick Mahomes. In fact, Nix had more successful long-range completions on the scatter plot than Mahomes in key areas of the field. That's not just hype, that's real production. And here's why this matters for the upcoming draft. Sean Payton has never entered a draft with this level of confidence in his defense. While his history in New Orleans leans slightly toward drafting defenders, 10 of his 17 first-round picks were on defense. This time might be different. With a top-tier defense already in place, Payton could shift his focus toward adding firepower on offense. All signs are pointing toward the Broncos getting even better, and it might start with one more key offensive pick. The focus around Denver continues to shift toward building around their rookie quarterback, and it's becoming more than just a fan wish. People connected to the Broncos and league insiders are all echoing the same message. It's time to surround Bo Nix with more offensive weapons. Even Chris Harris Jr., a key member of the legendary no-fly zone defense, weighed in. He recently said it's time for the Broncos to prioritize offense in the draft. When someone with his defensive pedigree says the defense is already in great shape and it's time to help the quarterback, that's a strong signal. NFL analyst Daniel Jeremiah also mentioned he still sees Denver targeting a dynamic offensive player in the first round, possibly someone like Loveland Colston. If that happens, it would show a clear commitment to giving Bo Nix everything he needs to succeed, and that success might come quickly. Nix is heading into his second season with more continuity than he's ever had in his career. Same coaching staff, growing chemistry with his receivers, and hopefully more talent joining the offense. Don't be surprised if you see breakout years from players like Devin Vell and Troy Franklin, especially with an upgraded supporting cast. Still, there's a quote from Sean Payton that keeps this all grounded. In his recent press conference, he said something that stood out. If you have crystal in front of you, you don't pick a blender just because you need a blender. In other words, just because the Broncos need a running back or a receiver doesn't mean they'll pass up an elite defensive player if one falls into their lap. If Denver does end up selecting a defensive lineman and fans start to question the move, remember that quote. If Payton sees that player as a crystal, it might not make sense now, but in 2 years, we could all be glad the team passed on a blender. That said, the smart money is still on an offensive pick, but if it doesn't happen, it's probably because Payton believes he's found a rare gem. Speaking of potential gems, running back Ashton Jeanty has also made headlines. In a Players Tribune piece, he had a great quote, "It's tackle football, so maybe draft the guy they can't tackle." That kind of confidence jumps off the page, and honestly, that one line made the idea of trading up to get him sound a lot more appealing. His attitude, combined with his playmaking ability, makes him a compelling option if Denver wants to get aggressive. As for other teams in the division, it's hard to tell what the Las Vegas Raiders are thinking. There was a funny moment during a recent interview involving their new GM and Pete Carroll. As the media brought up Ashton Jeanty, Carroll leaned in and jokingly whispered, "Be careful," then laughed it off. Maybe they're bluffing, pretending to target Jeanty to throw off other teams, or maybe it's real interest. Either way, Denver will need to be sharp because if Jeanty slips past the Raiders, he could be the kind of offensive threat that perfectly complements Bo Nix in Denver. There's been buzz that the Raiders are eyeing Ashton Jeanty in the draft, but at this point, it's unclear whether that's a genuine plan or just a smokescreen. Either way, it's shaping up to be good news for Denver. In a lighthearted but telling moment, Pete Carroll was caught whispering, "Be careful," to the Raiders' new GM during a discussion about Jeanty. Now that could mean a few things. Maybe Carroll doesn't fully trust the GM to keep things under wraps during the draft process, or maybe he's just trying to throw others off the scent. Remember, teams aren't supposed to publicly discuss specific prospects before the draft, so this could have been a subtle reminder or a bluff. Whatever the case, if the Raiders don't select Jeanty at 6, the Broncos could find themselves in a great position. Once Jeanty slides past that point, Denver could target a trade-up. Sean Payton still has strong ties to the New Orleans Saints, and GM George Payton is well respected across the NFC. If they wanted to strike a deal with teams like the Saints or Panthers, the path is there. If the Broncos are serious about adding a top-tier offensive weapon, this could be their chance, and that's exciting. On top of that, there's even more encouraging news for Denver fans coming out of Kansas City. Word is the Chiefs are scrambling to find a left tackle, and not just casually looking, they're reportedly desperate. That desperation could force them into trading valuable draft capital to move up, potentially targeting picks 25 or 26 from the Texans or Rams. This works heavily in Denver's favor. If Kansas City gives up assets just to land a tackle who might not even be a difference maker, that's a win. Let's hope the top tackles are off the board early and the Chiefs are left reaching for a player who doesn't change their outlook. That's especially promising considering they're already facing big questions. The looming suspension of Rashee Rice, the lack of established receiving threats, and Patrick Mahomes still dealing with pressure from four-man rushes all spell trouble for Kansas City. And if the Broncos can keep applying that pressure with players like Nick Bonitto and Jonah Ellis, there's a real shot to take both matchups against the Chiefs this season. Imagine that. Denver sweeping Kansas City. That's the kind of turnaround fans have been waiting for.